The Suez Canal blockage of 2021 caused a global trade disaster and also gave us a fantastic meme template. But there are plenty more places on planet Earth where a similar blockage or trade disruption could happen. Let's find out where they are. Sometimes geography plays tricks, and global choke points are places where geography has funneled human activity into a narrow band through convenience or necessity. For example, the Suez Canal, which is an artificial waterway that was dug through Egypt during the 1800s because that was way more convenient than going the long way round. Without getting too bogged down by numbers, the Suez Canal is super important for oil from the Gulf countries and products manufactured in Asia getting to Europe and North Africa and vice versa. But looking at the map, we can see that the Suez Canal isn't the only tight squeeze on this journey. Just at the other end of the Red Sea, nestled between Yemen, Djibouti, and Eritrea, is this little stretch of water called Bab ElMandab. Other than those vessels that start or end their journey at one of the Red Sea ports, every vessel traversing the Suez Canal will also have to make its way through Bab ElMandab, so any issue with this strait could have a devastating effect on global shipping in the same way. Bab ElMandab is about 30 kilometers wide, which is narrow for such an important piece of water, but it's nowhere near as skinny as the Suez, so one ship running aground won't block it. However, there are loads of other potential threats to any waterway this narrow, such as regional conflicts, piracy, and extreme weather events. As we cross the Indian Ocean, we get to our next choke point, the Strait of Malacca. This narrow stretch of water between the Malay Peninsula and the island of Sumatra is responsible for the vast majority of large-scale maritime traffic heading to or from East Asia in a westerly direction. Again, oil from West Asia is a big one here. It's a similar width to Bab ElMandab, but it feeds into the much narrower Singapore Strait. Again, one ship won't be able to block these straits, but at times visibility can be greatly impaired by bushfires on Sumatra, and piracy has been an issue in the past, although neighboring countries are working hard to stamp it out. Likewise, with the choke points of the Red Sea, if there's a problem with the strait, you can take the long way round, although thankfully it's not quite so circuitous as circumnavigating Africa. The next closest passage, the Sunda Strait, is super shallow, so that's no good for cargo ships, but the Lombok Strait is actually deeper than Malacca, so it provides a good second option, although a significant detour. Continuing our journey east, we cross the Pacific and get to the Americas, and of course, the Panama Canal. Many videos have been made about this one, but in a nutshell, it connects the east and west coasts of the Americas, as well as being another route between Asia and Europe. While the Panama has multiple lanes and sections that traverse lakes, there are sections that could be blocked by a single ship. The Panama Canal also has locks, rather than being a sea-level canal. While the Suez Canal may be more affected by the elements in the form of tides and sandstorms, the Panama Canal's locks do introduce another point that could fail and cause a blockage. If the locks were to somehow massively fail, either mechanically or due to another cause such as violent weather or a cyber attack, it could cause a huge slowdown in global trade, although thankfully none of these scenarios are very likely, given the thousands of ships that safely transit the canal every year. And finally, so the Europeans don't feel left out, let's cross the Atlantic and pick one of the choke points over here to talk about. The Strait of Gibraltar is the western outlet for the Mediterranean, just like the Suez Canal is the artificial eastern outlet, along with the Dardanelles and the Bosporus, which connect to the Black Sea in the northeast. The Strait of Gibraltar has been strategically important for centuries since the seafaring nations of antiquity started trading in the Mediterranean. So much so that the British still managed to possess Gibraltar, a tiny fortified piece of the Iberian Peninsula to the north of the strait. Otherwise, the strait is bound by Spain and Morocco. These days, it connects the Suez Canal with the countries of Northern Europe and connects the rest of the Mediterranean with the Americas and West Africa. At around 15 kilometers wide, it is thankfully again not possible to be blocked by a single cargo ship. You can see tiny cargo ships traversing the strait in this image, and you'd need about 70 placed end-to-end to block it. But it could certainly be blockaded by a fleet if catastrophic war were to somehow break out in the Mediterranean. In fact, it had been proposed in the 1920s to purposefully block the strait with a dam in order to generate electricity and lower the sea level in the Mediterranean. An interesting but also very terrible idea. These were just a few of the global maritime choke points around the world, but there are obviously more. If you're interested in a part 2 video exploring a few more choke points, let me know. Thanks for watching.